Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Suleiman. To resign or not to resign, that is the question, or rather, that is the decision for quite a few political appointees in the federal government who have publicly declared their interest to run for various elective offices in next year's elections. Across the 36 states, many governors have asked their political appointees who have any ambition to run for office in the elections to resign. And by last week, more than 50 commissioners, chiefs of staff, advisors, and heads of state-level agencies and departments have resigned to focus their attention squarely on their political ambitions. But not so in the federal government, at least not yet. The president has not required his ministers and other appointees to resign, even though several have made their political aspirations known publicly already. These include the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, Minister of Labor and Productivity, Chris Ngige, both of whom have declared their intention to run for Nigeria's presidency. The Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami San, is also rumored to have interest in the Kebbi State governorship race. So tonight we ask, to resign or not to resign? Are we likely to see any resignations? Will political party, particularly the ruling party, require the federal government appointees to resign before the primaries? With me to discuss these issues are two individuals who are both connected to law and politics in different ways. Mr. Dare Olabi is a legal practitioner in private practice here in Abuja. And Mr. John Chuks Azu is our legal correspondent who covers the courts and all legal issues for Daily Trust. You are most welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, good evening very much.
Thank you. We'll take 1 minute's break. When we return, we'll go straight into it and tell you why it matters that whether people should resign or shouldn't. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're talking about whether or not political officers, political appointees of various executive arms of the government, first at the federal government, but also at the state level, whether they will have to resign, whether the Electoral Act that requires them to resign, whether the sections in the Electoral Act that requires them to resign is going to stand or not, what implications this will have for some of them as we go into the election season proper. Stay with us. So, Mr. Olabi, let me begin with you as our chief legal officer in this studio right now. There is a tussle in that act. You know, the Electoral Act requires that people should resign, you know, if they are going to participate in elections as candidates or even as voters. And now both parties have met their primaries calendar is now clear. We now know that the PDP and the APC are going to have their primary elections at the end of May, and for governorship elections even earlier. What does this calendar mean for that requirement of the Electoral Act?
Well, you call it tussle. I don't see it as tussle.
Okay.
Even though you can't rule out that, even though the mindset of the legislators that came up with that provision of Electoral Act, Section 84, sub 12, you can't rule out the fact that one way or the other there could be personal interest.
Okay.
That is that underscore the reasoning
The personal interest of whom?
of legislators.
Okay.
Let me tell you the way it happens. You know what happened here is this. When if you're a governor of a state and you are seeking a re-election, and then another person is seeking a re-election and that's under the same political party, allowing your, what do you call it, political appointees by these two political parties have in their constitution that political appointees are eligible to vote at their convention and congresses.
Yes.
So what does that simply say? It means that you are not having a level playing field for all aspirants in any election, because those you appoint will definitely is like somebody who has the pipe. It will be the one to dictate the tone. So that's what happens. So largely, this affects aspirations of some of our lawmakers to become governors of their states. And that is why they came up with this idea. But I want us to go beyond the personal interest of, individual interest of the legislators and look at the merit of that provision. That provision is, to me, it's very, very, very necessary.
Okay.
Necessary in the sense that if you are popular and your people and you're acceptable to the people, or what you promise the people that you are going to do if you are elected is believed by the people, you will be so elected. But a situation whereby the system skewed the electoral process to your favor and then leaves the people with no choice than to have only you to contend with. You don't have, that's not democracy. But going proper to your question, I said there's no tussle.
Okay.
Because I think the civil society, the members of the bar, and educated Nigerians celebrate that provisions of the law, that section 84. Those who are contesting that provision are those that the provision work against, and they are minority. Okay, now what is the basis for their complaints? The basis for their complaint is you find the basis under section 66, 107, 137, 182 of the Constitution. What are they saying? That the Constitution is supreme is no doubt. There's no doubt about that. The Constitution is supreme, and whatever law the legislature makes that is in conflict with the provisions of our law, it's going to be null and void to the level of that, to the level of the inconsistency of that provision of the law. So those who hold that view are very correct. But the question that people are not asking is that what we have at hand now, does it apply to violation of the Nigerian Constitution? From my own angle, the answer is no.
But that's why we were speaking of a tussle earlier, because as Mr. Dari said, what we have at hand now. Some people will say what we have at hand now is that section of the electoral law, in fact, stands abrogated, stands deleted. That's what we have at hand now, rather than what was put there by the National Assembly at the time the law was being passed and assented to by the president. That what we have at hand now is that section of the law does not exist. It's null and void, so how does that constrain or, affect the coming primaries now that we have a calendar?
Yeah, okay. In the sense that the law is not being viewed as being in existence based on the decision of the courts. That is the legal paradigm that is looking at it. But if you go by the general principles of fairness and level playing field, which he mentioned earlier, it is standard. The Electoral Act that we are just talking about, and even the CAMA, the Corporate Affairs Commission and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, the recent amendment 2020, there is still provision for private business owners, company managers, to divest their interest in whatever businesses they are doing while seeking political office.
Very interesting.
So that is to prevent conflict of interest or distraction to that office holder while serving the public. So that doesn't need the Electoral Act for you to do the needful, that you need to divest from whatever you are doing. So generally, even in the United States, states like Florida, Arizona, Texas, Hawaii, up to 5 states. In fact, many states are also admitting this provision of resign to run, which is that you should not have any advantage because
against
you call
other candidates in the same race,
yes,
or other aspirants in the same race.
Yeah, so in that context, it is right to say this is a tussle. And in that tussle, it is only fair that parties come on equal footing so that the electorate will have a clearer vision of what they are voting or casting their vote for. So I do not think that what the court has decided, yeah, it's still pending, is now on appeal, but that does not in any way dismiss the normative qualities that people should do the needful.
Thank you. But Mr. Diarra, this issue has several angles. There is the moral aspect of it, which both of you have stressed, the legal aspect of it, but also the politics of it, you know. We'll look at the different aspect subsequently. But the judicial aspect of it, is it not possible for the appeal court to expedite action on this hearing this case, just so that it doesn't throw the country into confusion? Isn't it possible a judge is not influenced by the political environment, not in their decisions on questions of law, but yeah, not in their decisions on the questions of law, but on how their decisions can affect the, you know, can they intervene quickly so that this issue is settled and then we move on?
You asked me a very, very emotional question.
Okay.
You know why I call it emotional?
Yes.
It is emotional because you delve into my constituency. You're asking questions on topics that bleeds our hearts. Some of us that feel that things are not being done the right way in Nigeria. It is possible for the judiciary to do the needful within the time that the general populace expects the judiciary to act. But because we are Nigerians in court, when delaying decisions on that matter is normal with us, for a reason best known to the political attacks. But if you want me to answer your question straight away, it is possible. But because we are Nigerians, well, delay can happen, and it's quite unfortunate. That's why.
So, what could be the causes of these delays?
Yeah, well, you see, let me even look at it from another angle. I don't even expect, in the first place, that case will be taken to court. Do you know why? Because as recently as 2018, when there was a contest between a political party, primary election between the former governor of Ekiti State, his name is Engineer Shegwoni, and the present governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kaode Fayemi. There was primary election between them in 2018 under APC, the same political umbrella. And Dr. Kaode Fayemi was declared the winner of that primary election. And Shegwoni went to court, Engineer Shegwoni went to court to contest his emergence on the ground that he is a public officer. He ought to have resigned by provision of Section 66 of Nigerian Constitution. He ought to have resigned 30 days to the primaries. But he sat as a sitting minister. He was a sitting minister,
Yes.
and he had that primaries conducted. You know what the Court of Appeal said? That political appointees are not captured under Section 318 of the Constitution. So why is anybody going to court about this? Do you get the point I'm making now? It as recently as 2018.
18, yeah.
The Supreme Court said, the Court of Appeal said, as at the time he contested that election, yes, he's a political appointee, but he does not fall within the contemplation of Section 318 of
In
the
other words, the
Constitution.
two categories of public officials are to be treated differently.
Very well.
So the first one concerns the civil servants or public, and this new Electoral Act is in particular relating to
You have
the
just hit
political
the nail on the
appointees.
head. The Constitution, Section 66, 107, 137, 182 of the Constitution, and even 318 of the Constitution are talking about public officers. Why Electoral Act, Section 84, sub 12 of Electoral Act, is talking about political appointees. These are two different people under the law.
So but if this is because I could see that you are nodding, in agreement, if I get you right, to what he was saying. If that is the case, how does it apply to specific individuals who have declared their interest to run for office? Now, for example, Rotimi Amechi, Ngige, and Shomalemi in particular, who has not yet declared, although everywhere that's no longer a secret that he is interested in governorship of Kebbi State.
Yeah, the context it will apply to them will be that there is an amendment to the law. And the National Assembly believes that the Independent National Electoral Commission is independent. And independent in the sense that they need the tools to work with. And the Act is the tool they have been asking for before they will set the timetable, which they have announced. So if this law is made, it's for the Independent National Electoral Commission, and they have accepted it. So to that extent, whatever interpretation that will now be made will be by the courts. What was decided in 2018, which I agreed with him, in that case, it was argued and decided. But now that there's an amendment, and even constitutionally, we are also amending, we are evolving. There have been some new interpretations in the Constitution. So it wouldn't be out of place to err on the part of caution. And like earlier, he did mention about whether you were the one mentioning about the judiciary, whether was the delay.
Yes.
Again, the judiciary is an independent arm of government.
Yes.
They cannot be stampeded or to cure or remedy what error the other arm of government has caused. They have even expedited.
No, it's not about remedying. Nobody is talking about the substantive legal questions in the case.
Yeah.
But everywhere, some cases, for example, the Florida case, in the United States, after the election, you needed, because you're going to have a handing over in January. So you needed to decide everything about the case as soon as possible, so that you can put the political system in a certain, under some level of certainty rather than uncertainty, right? So the Supreme Court quickly sat and took a decision that A1, B1. So the issue here is not what the court will decide. We will not, neither of us, even you are a lawyer, you cannot go about deciding or suggesting for any court or any judge what he should decide. But the idea that this case can be heard earlier in either, to resolve the question, to diffuse the heat in the... That's a fair argument to ask of any judge or any court.
Yeah, we shouldn't be under any illusion that our system has suddenly improved.
Okay.
But of course, there is progress. In this case, everybody believes it will be decided in the next 3 months latest. But then, unfortunately, it's still going to go to the Supreme Court. So that is why I say that looking at our own environment, it will be better that these individuals you have mentioned, Amechi, Malami, and the rest, it will be better, as is being suggested, that they err on the side of caution, which is that they shouldn't go ahead
and
to,
law.
Against what may eventually be, because I see that this is the best practice that will be there, even though there was a decision earlier by the court. But in this extant situation, and National Assembly has amended the law, and INEC is working with it already. So we just have to do with what we have. So yeah.
So, but there's another thing, Mr. John Sooks. You find that the law is being followed without question across most states. Many state governors in Kano, in Kwara, in many states across the country, across all the parts of the country, they have issued. Kaduna State was probably the first governor to even issue out the order, Malam Nasir Rafai. He said, if you want to contest for anything, please leave the government and go and contest. So how is it that it is the states that are showing example for a law that was actually made and passed here in Abuja? What does that say?
That's the progress I suggested earlier, that we are making progress, and a lot of people want to see that difference. And of course, it could be too that the governors have no interest. Most of them are doing their second term, so they will want everybody to be on equal footing who are contesting. Of course, they may have their preferences, but they want everybody to be on that level playing field. So that there could be some selfish tinge to it. There could be also genuine progress, genuine concern that the country should make progress democratically. We never can say.
Thank you. So, Mr. Jare, there are two issues here that have been, itching to ask a lawyer, particularly for the Attorney General's son. Number one, if he were not rumored to be in contention for the governorship race, would you still expect him to at least advise the president, or to expect him to, how would you expect him to act in that kind of context? That's one. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, now that he himself is in fact being rumored to be in contention for office somewhere in Kebbi State, does that raise any issues to his position as Attorney General vis-a-vis the application of the law in the country?
Well, if you look at the what do you call it, the events that led to the judgment from Abia State, I think it was Federal Court, Abia State, the woman here that gave that judgment. If you look at the event around it, you cannot completely exculpate the office of the Attorney General from likelihood of complicity. First and foremost, the plaintiffs in that suit, all of them have office addresses.
They have office addresses?
Office addresses Abuja, office addresses in Abuja, sorry. The defendant in that same matter, office address in Abuja, but the case was taken to Uma here. There are federal courts in Abuja. There are a lot of, I think we have about, we have up to 10 federal court judges, if not more, here in Abuja. And the matter was taken to Uma here for a decision. What does that say? In law,
you have in Nasarawa State, in Kaduna State,
you have,
in
yes,
Niger
you have
State,
in Nasarawa, you have
in Kogi State, nearby.
In law, you call it forum shopping. You do it as a young lawyer, they may take off your wig, you call it abuse of court process. But when the authority is the one involved in doing it, you are covered. An ex parte application was used to remove a CJN in Nigeria. The lawyer who signed that application is unknown to date. And that order was carried out by federal government. On a strange practice in our law. A ex parte application was used to remove an arm of government. In one of my TV interviews, I think I mentioned that it's not proper for us to continue to see somebody as number one in Nigeria. There's nobody that is called number one in Nigeria. My point is that there are three arms of government,
and each one is one in their own right.
The president of Nigeria is called the executive president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then the Senate president is called the Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then the CJN is called the Chief Justice of Nigeria. So each of them is number one in these three arms. Now, somebody wakes up one day and just finds it that I don't like your face. You're likely to be an obstacle to my political ambition. And then the office of AG or whoever, I don't know, comes up with something funny and they file an application in court. An unknown lawyer filed an application in court and a judge sat on it. And then the CJN became a man of history in our client.
We will have time to look at the CJN issue some other time. But you said something very crucial, that is it forum shopping?
Yeah, forum shopping. Yeah,
forum shopping.
Yes.
That if a young lawyer does it,
no, of course,
they would have been debarred.
No, of course.
You know, they will have their license to practice law taken away from them.
Of course.
And then it's now happening under in a case in which the Attorney General himself was a party to. So are you saying that maybe the forum shopping is the very idea of taking the case to Umar here itself is illegal or wrong or what?
It is to protect personal interest.
Okay.
You just mentioned here that the AG himself is interested in the government house in what's the name of that?
Kebbi State.
You just mentioned here that it's being rumored that he's interested in that. And that provision of the law removes him from, of course, no, not removing him from contesting.
No.
But he does not, of course, he wouldn't want to quit that seat while contesting, especially for primaries. He wouldn't want to do that. So it's normal. That's why I told you that it is a minority move to truncate that very wonderful. I love what you said when you divided this conversation to three different categories of you have the moral angle, you have the political angle, and then you have the legal angle. The moral angle, it's giving people equal opportunity before the law to contest, so that whoever people choose will go for the seat. And then the political angle is what we're talking about now, the politicking. So that's what we're saying now. And then the legal angle is whether or not the matter actually needed to go to court in the first place. And I've told you that shouldn't be a reason. What the Attorney General we're talking about here, in fact, let me tell you something. From my own personal opinion, I think it's even very important that a city governor should be made to resign before the election.
In the context of Nigeria,
yes, because it's
specific circumstances.
They spend public funds to project electoral process without being questioned. And every educated Nigerian is aware of this. They spend public fund. Okay, these governors that are moving from one state to another for consultation using private jet, is it the salary they're spending? The Wike of Rivers, the Ayabelo of the woman, what's the name of this man? The man from the east.
Dave.
That are moving from one place to another in private jet, crowd. We are talking about private jet, hotel accommodation, and other logistics. Are they spending their salary to do that?
Yes.
They spend state fund to project their their ambitions, and nobody questions them. So what is wrong if you say, if you are contesting, if as a sitting governor, if you want to recontest, what is wrong if you ask him to resign from his seat 3 months before the election to give level playing ground for other aspirants? What is wrong in that? Hand over to the most senior civil servant in the state. If you win the election, then you take over, you continue from where you stop. What is wrong in that? So taking it forward, like he rightly said, that even though I wanted not to agree with him, that we are making progress, I don't see any progress until these amendments are put into test, and then political actors comply with provisions of the law, because they have ways of actually, maneuvering these laws and make mess of
Thank you.
the attention of the legislators.
Thank you very much. But the INEC publicity spokesperson was on TV earlier and was speaking about these issues, and maybe we'll look at how INEC is involved, what role it can play, particularly in the coming primaries. There's also news since yesterday and the day before that the APC has released a guideline for its own officers as well. But these are issues that we'll discuss when we return from a short break shortly. So far we've been looking at what it means, what the Electoral Act might mean now that we have a clear calendar of the primaries across the major parties. I have been discussing with Mr. Dare Olabi and John Chuks Azu, both of whom are in legal practice and legal journalism respectively. Stay with us and we'll be right back here for you. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and we're discussing the implications of the Electoral Act as we move closer and closer into the primaries of both parties, particularly the ruling APC. So, Mr. John Chuks, earlier Festus Okoye, who speaks, INEC spokesperson and public education and director, he was saying that it's important for these officers to act to err on the side of caution. That if you are an officer and you a political appointee and you want to contest for office, it's better that you resign now, and so on. First of all, is there a signal somewhere, does that serve as a signal somewhere to the political actors, people in politics?
The views he has expressed are very germane and coming at the right time, especially for the umpire. It's like an expo. But it is important to, maybe without prejudice to the popular views on this new act, to point out that our law, from my own reading, because I have a copy of the amended Electoral Act, I've read it. I haven't seen in that section 8412 where a date was or a timeline was mentioned. I didn't see that. What I saw there was that political office holders will not be voted for or vote during the convention of a political party.
Okay.
It didn't even talk about resigning or not resigning. You will not be voted for or vote. That means you will not participate. That doesn't stop you from going to the ground to look at what is happening. Every Nigerian is entitled to go. It's a public place. And although the Constitution, Section 66, has mentioned the issue of resigning 30 days for public servants. But in this act, it didn't say for you to contest as a presidential candidate or governorship candidate, you have to resign 30 days. There is no mention of that under Section 84, sub 12.
Yes.
But of course, the guideline that has now been released It's also...
No, we'll come to the guideline shortly.
Yeah.
But Mr. Dare, because he just raised an issue now that in Section 84, there is no specific timeline that, oh, resign within 30 days, resign within 60 days. Today is 27th April, so all things being equal at the state level, states that are controlled by the PDP, they just have about 30 days to the PDP's on primaries, right? At governorship, presidential, and so on. And that of the APC is just 2 days ahead on the 31st, on 30th and 31st, and then 1st of June. So that's about 32, 33, let's say about 35 days maximum. So that one we already know because the calendar is already out there. So he raised an important question that I think, thank God we have a lawyer to help us answer. What is the text of a legal document, such as he quoted, Section 84(2), and the spirit or the intent of that? What is the implication? Is the word saying something different from the intent of that section? Does the intent apply to primaries or to the general election, or which one?
Thankfully, I will answer that question by first and foremost taking a detour by mentioning that the individuals you mentioned in your introduction, the Rotimi Amaechi and
Chris Ngige and so on.
Chris Ngige, with due respect, are not serious contenders.
Okay.
With due respect, they're not serious contenders.
I'm very sure they will disagree with you.
I've seen Rotimi Amaechi on TV being asked questions about whether or not he's going to contest. I think about 1 or 2 months ago, and he said he was not contesting. And then shortly thereafter, Governor El-Rufai of Kaduna State was interviewed, and El-Rufai confirmed that he knew, as a matter of fact, that Rotimi Amaechi is interested. So if he, out of maybe sudden, maybe somebody whispered to him that people want you, and well, let me just try my luck.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Then if you go to Ngigi...
But politicians routinely say that they are not interested in a position while working very hard towards it.
We know those who are actually making frantic efforts.
Okay.
If you go to Ngigi was on Channels TV, and when this same question was posed to him, Ngigi answered by telling the interviewer that Section 318 of the Constitution covers him. So I think that simply explains what you want to know. So their mindset is that the provision of the Constitution, as decided by the court Iduma here, is in their favor. You get the point I'm making. So, and you don't need to underrate apart from the mindset of these political actors, you don't need to underrate the level of treacherous, what do you call it?
What was the intent of Section 84 that he raised earlier? Does that section specify a date to it, or does it intend that the dates that political parties declare as the dates for their primary, that this law will then apply according to those dates? That's, I think that's an important question.
That section did not specifically state when you are expected to resign.
Okay. So
for those who are serious contenders, since the law has provided that as political appointees, you cannot take this step except you do this. I don't think you need to wait forever before you get that done. You just mentioned here about a few people who have done it across the state of the federation. So why is it difficult for these people to do? Because they are the ones who sponsored the case in Oma here. As they believe so much that what happened Uma here will happen in Court of Appeal. But of course, it's going to happen. Do you know why I said so? There are precedents that the Court of Appeal will follow. The Court of Appeal cannot actually depart from the
Maybe
decision.
we can wait for the Court of Appeal to take its
Okay, that's fine.
decision. You know. So, but another issue is this APC coming out. You know, since yesterday, it was in the newspapers today, in these days specifically, that the electoral guideline requires that those who want to political appointees cannot be voted for or stand for election unless they resign 30 days before the primary election, you know. So this time around, I'm not talking about the Electoral Act, the internal party guideline, which is very clear and specific. So it mentions a specific date prior to the primaries. So are we looking to see a wave of resignations from the presidency as we have seen across the states in relation to this new guideline?
The party rules are actually litigable, if I may use that word.
Okay.
If members challenge the candidates or aspirants who did not comply, they may have a leeway in court.
Okay.
Although the law, the act, which INEC is relying on, has not specified any timeline. What it then means is that some people may wait till even a night to the primary. If they are following the Electoral Act, they may wait to the night to the primary and then resign. They will go to the ground
as a night to the primary as so how would the resignation be public? How would the people know that
they'll
it's
hand over?
official?
It is the dating.
Okay.
They'll hand over in the morning to the official, and then tomorrow they are at the ground. And then you can't say that they are officials of government. They are just like any other delegates. They will participate. So I wouldn't know whether the rule by the party would be strictly adhered to. So I wouldn't be expecting a wave of resignations, because except members themselves challenge it, which may not happen if they have a common goal. But if they don't challenge it, nobody else. Maybe opposition parties can say, oh, we noticed this is in their constitution, they didn't follow it. It can happen. People have taken cases to court on such premises. But as it stands today, Electoral Act is bigger than that, because that's what the INEC is following. So I don't see a wave of resignations. But of course, we are going to see a lot of moves, you know, that will be clearer as the days go by.
Thank you.
In addition to that, if we will look at it from the moral angle, why do you need to be forced to resign if you feel you are popular? If you strongly feel that Nigerians will vote for you, if you feel that you are the best person to do the job,
you want to be free of office so that you can move around.
It's public. If you know that, okay, being called as an appointee of government to come and serve the people is a duty to the state, not to you. Why is it difficult for you to comply with the law? Okay, as the law as it is now is that judgment from Uma here is in abeyance until the Court of Appeal.
Because it has been appealed.
Yes.
So the current law, the one that is extant now,
is what was in the Electoral
Act. Interesting.
Until the Court of Appeal decides one way or the other. So why should it be a political conversation among our leaders whether or not to resign before contesting for a position? I think you can. What this simply demonstrates is the extent of their greed and selfishness, and their inordinate desire to hold on to power forever. You want to hold this, you want this, and you want to hold this. For you to have this, you must leave this, but you want to hold this and still have this. That's exactly what they are doing. So from moral angle, is it something that a serious country should actually be having as a conversation?
So the chairman of the party, the national chairman of the APC, the new national chairman of the APC, Senator Abdullah Ademu, himself, he has resigned his position from the Senate without prompting by anyone, without waiting for any electoral act and so on. Is that a moral example that he is setting?
It is a moral example. Okay. Ordinarily, he ought not to. He actually waited until he was elected before he resigned. It's still part of the problems we're talking about here. Okay. Because, you see, what that simply tells us is that there's something there that they are benefiting that they don't want to leave. That's what that simply explains. If you offer yourself to serve the people, you want to serve your people. So why is it difficult for you to comply with the law? Okay, you are giving a bad example about yourself, ab initio, that come. If we elect you eventually, you're not likely to obey any of our laws. You only obey the ones that are in your favor. That's exactly what they are telling. So from the moral angle, they are failed Nigerians. From the moral angle, they are failed Nigerians, those who know how to watch events. You are saying you want to become president of Nigeria, and you're going to swear to an oath to do what? To observe the provisions of Nigerian Constitution and other laws. But the one that guides your emergence as somebody that will be elected to that exalted office, you are violating it right in the eyes of every Nigerian. So how do you expect us to see you eventually? Do you get the point I'm making? So they have moral burden across their neck. But like I said, I don't think they are doing this. It could be for a reason that I mentioned earlier, and again because they feel that they are not likely to win the election, so why losing the seat? So that's
interesting. So, but John Chuks, the cases are not exactly the same, because the dates for the elections are also not exactly the same. In the case of governorship elections for the ruling APC, they have set May 18th to May, is it 20th or 21st for governorship primary elections. So in the specific case of the Attorney General now, who is rumored to be in contention for the race to the Kebbi State governorship house, how does this work out? Because 18th, between now and the 18th of May, you don't have 30 days in that period. So is he already in default of that party guideline, or how does that affect him?
Yeah, earlier today we were trying to reach the office of the Attorney General. He wasn't responding himself, and his aides also were not responding. That's without prejudice to the new Electoral Act. It appears it may not be retroactive, because we just saw it today. Somebody said it came out yesterday, but some of us got wind of it today. And even if it is yesterday or even last week, it's still not up to 30 days. They are supposed to bring out, because I'm aware that when the national chairman resumed, one of the decisions he took was the forms, the 100 million naira forms and 50 million naira for governorship. I mean, 40 million naira for governorship, then 100 million for presidential. And then he also tried to overhaul the secretariat of the party. I didn't see any electoral guideline for the party. So if you are going to punish somebody for contradicting the law, then the law has to be fair. So I don't know whether he has the plan to resign towards the end of this month, but what I can say for certain is that the Electoral Act can't be retroactive. It has to be when it came out that it started taking effect, and there was a delay. Clearly, we can see. I'm not holding forth for him, but this is what I think.
But please, let's get something
That's
right.
about our last
Let's get something right. Sorry, before that, let's
right.
get something right. The 30 days that the Constitution provides does not, I mentioned it earlier, does not affect political appointees. So they can be there till...
So but as a final question, maybe you can answer in 30 seconds, do you foresee a political tsunami sometime down the road?
People moving from one party to another?
No, that the electoral, for example, maybe the appeal court will fall back again on the existing provisions in the Electoral Act and some people who didn't follow through with this will then be affected?
Of course, that is it. I'm appealing my colleague here is equally a learned friend. The principle of state is
just about 30 seconds.
You see, there are, in law, the court follow precedents. I can tell you about 3 cases now the Court of Appeal have decided on this same subject matter. So I strongly doubt if Court of Appeal would depart from those decisions.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Barrister Dare Owolabi. Thank you also, Mr. John Chooks, as it's nice having you on the studio.
Thank you very much.
Thank you also, viewers, for staying with us tonight. Because you are always here, that's why we also were trying to come here for you, to bring you political analysis about what's going on and how this affects you. Join us tomorrow and we'll bring you another edition of Daily Politics on Trust TV. My name is Suleiman Suleiman. Bye-bye.